everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Spotlight series presented by the Black Podcasters Association. My name is Corey Gumbs, and I'm your host. The Spotlight series is a weekly show where we highlight Black podcasters, creatives, and podcast support professionals from the Black Podcasters Association's community. Our goal is to bring a spotlight to our members and help raise awareness of their unique journeys in this growing medium. In today's episode, we would like to welcome one of our community moderators, Bethany Hawkins. Bethany is the founder and CEO of Crackers and Soup, a podcast management company that assists women podcast hosts with tasks like, but not limited to, cover art, post-production, launches, and everything in between. Besides working on other award-winning podcasts, she is also the co-host of our very own award-winning podcast, Chatting Over Chowder. So I can go on and on about it, but I'm going to let Bethany tell her own story. So without further delay, I introduce to you Bethany Hawkins. Hi,
Okay,
Bethany.
first off, that's a super dope jingle. Like, why don't you play that more in the group? I feel like that you should just have a jingle break where where if like 3 people comment, then you just insert a jingle. I feel like that needs to be incorporated more into Black ass podcasters. That would be super dope. Hi, Scorpion. Happy post Turkey Day. I hope yours was well. So in regards to my story, like when I came out of the womb, do you want me to fast forward a little bit? Because I got decades of life.
I think we want to just hear the podcasting stuff for now.
Okay.
We will work for the Lifetime movie.
You know, who would play me? A young up-and-comer with big hips. So
No, you gotta do like what Hollywood does to Black actors, and when they take stories, just because he does not look like anything like you.
yes. It would be a little white girl with blonde hair. So I got into podcasting in 2019. I worked in the criminal justice system for over 18 years. And the last 3 years, it was just riddled with despair and overwhelm. So the only thing that actually got me through is listening to podcasts. So I knew that if I was going to leave only a handful of years away from a pension, that I was going to leave to create a business that I loved. So I did what I do best, and I researched the heck out of things. I'm going to try really hard not to swear in this live, Corey. I'm going to try really hard to censor myself. So I started Crackers and Soup, which started off as I knew that with all of my skills, I had a lot of transferable skills, so I could start in the virtual assistant community, all while trying to figure out how I could concentrate and center on podcasting. I loved podcasting, but I didn't know what the behind the scenes of podcasting looked like. And I didn't know literally one person who did a podcast. So I immersed myself in groups that concentrated on podcasting. And I was a part of this group that was just in regards to supporting Black women. And one of the members had posted her most current episode of her podcast. And I loved it. And I binged her entire freaking season. And I went to go refer a particular episode to a friend of mine. And I noticed that she didn't have any show notes. So I reached out to her. She had no idea who I was. I had no idea who she was. I just knew that I loved the aesthetic of her podcast. And I asked her, can I do your show notes for free? And that is literally how all of a sudden I am almost a 6-figure business company. That's what happened.
I think your story is like a lot of people who get into podcasts. They just don't have a point of origin, and they just look for paths and figure out what's the best entry point for them. So that's great.
Thank you. Yeah. It was super. And not only did she allow me to do her show notes, but she also showed me the ropes. She comes from a radio background.
Okay.
So I was able to learn a lot from her, and I'm always looking to learn. So other people started coming into my life, and I started learning from them. And then in 2020, the end of 2020, People kept asking me, when are you going to create a podcast? When are you create? Thank you, Facebook user that wrote that at 8:04 p.m. I don't know who that is, but I heart you. You too are amazing. It doesn't say what your name is though. So people kept asking me, when are you creating a podcast? But I didn't want to create a podcast on podcast management because I do that all the live long day. I don't freaking want to talk about it. Like,
Right.
if you want to listen to a podcast about editing, my podcast is not the one. So I wanted to talk to women in the podcasting community that are like actually my friends. It gave me an excuse to kiki it up with my friends. And to send them soup because we send our guests soup. And every single person that is on our podcast, we literally invite them personally. Nobody has been on our podcast that's just like slipped in our DMs. And that's how Chatting Over Chowder was created. It's just two minority women talking to women in the podcasting community about what podcasts they listen to while eating chowder. And we won an award because people think we're funny. Yes, people who think we're funny, we got an award.
I just want to shout out. It was Bree that shouted you out on the comment section. So
I love Bree. Hi, Bree. She's super dope. I met her at She Podcast Live.
I'm going to interrupt so you can see the comments and who said, if you're on Facebook in our Facebook group or on Facebook watching this, make sure you go to streamyard.com/Facebook and just follow their prompts so that your comments can show up so that we know who's saying what they're saying. But I think I know when we first met, and I know I asked you this, explain to people what the crackers and soup and Chatting Over Chowder concept really is.
Okay. So I knew that I wanted to create a business that was going to involve podcasting, but I didn't know any of the podcasting vernacular. And I don't really like to pigeonhole myself. And people don't know this, but I'm really an introvert. So I didn't want to have my name on the damn company. Don't make that face, it's true. I didn't want to have my name on the company. I didn't want to have like podcasting company 101 because like I didn't want to have, I started off doing virtual assistant. So I didn't want to have virtual assistant because I knew I was going to get out of there as soon as I had enough exposure in the podcasting community.
Mm-hmm.
So one day my daughter, she was going through her soup phase and she was like, can I have soup? Can I have soup? Can I have soup? And she was like, but I need crackers with it. And I said, hey, you ate all the damn crackers. I don't know what to tell you. You can have some soup though. And she's like, but crackers make it better. So I was like, that's the perfect name for my company because ideally our clients are the soup. They're already good. We just come in and do some tweaks and we just make it better. So that's where crackers and soup came from. And Chatting Over Chowder came to be about because the woman that allowed me to do her show notes and kind of started me in the ropes of podcasting, her name is Kimberly Sumter. She has a podcast called Sisters Connect. She's amazing. Mm-hmm. And she's from Jersey. We would have hour-long conversations. And one night I was like, I got to go. I'm going to make dinner. I'm making chowder. And she was like, Bethany, I don't know what the hell you're saying. If people do not know, I'm from Massachusetts. Every now and then I bust out with a very thick Massachusetts accent. To her, she didn't know. And I was like, like a thick based soup, chowder. And she was like, I don't know. And I was like, I've been to Jersey. I know you have chowder there. She's like, are you saying chowder? So that's how I came up with the name of Chatting Over Chowder. I was going to do CHOWDAH, but I was like, nah, I'm not trying. I'm not trying to rep Massachusetts that hard.
At least you didn't say anything about the car.
Yes, there's that. But a lot of people don't know that I'm from Massachusetts until like one particular word. And they're like,
yeah,
where are you from? So yeah, that's how
my New York accent, but that doesn't happen.
Yeah, no. So that's how the name of the company and the name of the podcast came to be about. And like I said, we literally send each and every one of our guests a soup or chowder that they choose. We pay for it. We send it to them. It's this one company that's our sponsor that we use for every single guest. And it's an amazing experience. They're super excited to come on and talk about how they got into podcasting. They send us a couple of the episodes that they listen to in regards to podcasting. It could be anything from their podcast that they listen to that they want us to check out, or it could be other people's podcasts. And I love it because it brings new podcasts into my life, like things that I never even would have found. I'm like, oh, that episode was so dope. Subscribe, subscribe.
Right. So, I'm sorry.
And the people that are on the podcast are everybody from people who have um podcasts themselves all the way to people who are just strictly editors. We had an audio engineer for Earwolf, and she was the first audio engineer for Earwolf on our podcast. We have
In the
people
TV
who
show, Airwolf?
no
Oh,
EAR
oh,
like
Earwolf. Okay.
Earwolf.
You said Airwolf.
No, no,
I'm like, wow.
no. We have people on who strictly do editing. We've had podcast managers. We have people. I had a woman on who does photography, and she talked about the importance of melanin skin on cover art. So it's not just podcast hosts.
Okay. So on your show, it's just a mixture of people who are in the podcast industry, or is it other industries as well?
People who are in the podcasting industry.
Okay. I know we talked last week, about a week ago. We did the conversation about the Black Podcast Report.
Mhm.
Problem with Black podcasts is I always think about the group association, so I have to slow myself down. But the Black Podcast Report, and I know in that report they were talking about how Black women are actually, or they show the statistics how Black women are actually moving the podcast industry. How do you feel about that? Like, what do you like? Why is that important?
I love it. I feel like we are Twyla in Afros and Audio said it so eloquently, and she said it best when she said that Black women actually create movements in this country and all over the world. We are actually responsible for trend setting, and if we can be the cornerstone of this podcasting experience, because it's still in its infancy.
Right.
So if we can create the formula for kind of how to be heard in a podcast, how to be seen, how to have a beautiful experience in this podcasting journey. Granted, some white guy is going to take all of our ideas and say that it was his and he'll be $1 billion, but we'll know that we were the stepping stone to get that white guy his $1 million.
Right. That's why you got to treat the game like Michael Jordan, right? You got to make sure you own as much of it as possible so that you can control it and then utilize their resources to help get you to that next level. But it is interesting to see that Black women are moving the podcast space, because typically it's a white male dominated space. What would be some advice you would give to some of the Black women in our group and out there in the world that are thinking about utilizing or creating a podcast to help express themselves and express their voices?
I love that. That's a great question. I would say, number one, be organized. Before you even order a microphone, before you decide upon what headphones you're going to be using, figure out how many episodes is going to be in your season. Figure out if you're going to be doing a season break. Figure out if you're going to be having a co-host. Trademark the name of your podcast. Start doing all of the legalities. If you have a co-host, draw up a contract, meet with an attorney, even if you're doing it for quote unquote fun. And if you want to keep, even if you want to keep your money investment low, you have to treat podcasting like a business. And the reason why is because the ones that are having fun in their podcast, those are the ones that get the most traction. And all of a sudden, those are the ones that are monetizing. So if you have a co-host and all of a sudden all of the sponsorship money's coming in, or you're monetizing in another way, and you have a falling out with your co-host, if you don't have any contractual obligations to each other written down that is both signed, that could lead into a whole other issue.
Right.
Trademarking your name. If you have a bomb ass name, people are like snatchies and just start using it for themselves. So you want to make sure that you're thinking about how to get all of the different moving parts of your podcast in an organized fashion, as well as what you're going to do when it comes to legalities. And then you can start the process of saving money and budgeting for a microphone or for headphones. And what I would also recommend is just having in the back of your head that season one is for learning. Season one isn't for 1 billion downloads. unless you have like a really large following. And there's no guarantee if you do have a really large following that they're going to listen to your podcast. There's this misconception that you can have 31,000 people following you on Instagram and 31,000 people are going to listen to your podcast. No, it's a completely different medium. So if you are coming into it, you have a pretty big following, you have all of your organizations, you know where your intro, your outro, your trailer is all going to be, even if it's like a Google Doc form. I don't suggest that. I hate that. Be a little more organized than a Google Doc form.
You got real
Yes.
shady in here.
Like,
Got
be a
real
little more
shady.
organized than that.
And it's nighttime, so I don't know how I feel about that.
But like, even if you're going to have a particular music within your intro and outro, and you want to sting to kind of separate the different parts of your podcast episode, in your show assembly, you're going to want it to be organized so you can find all of those things every week. And again, you're going to want to think, do you want to drop every week? Do you want to drop every other week? What can your bandwidth handle when you're creating your podcast? These are all things that should be discussed and figured out before you even hit record.
All right, those are great answers. Real quick, I'm gonna go rewind real quick because you mentioned now you send all of your guests soup or a package, right? I think engagement and just not just with your audience but also guests is very important, and I also think helps those kind of things help them to want to help you promote your podcast, right? It makes them feel appreciated that their time was deemed important. What made you guys decide to do that, and what have been the benefits of doing that?
So I feel like I like to eat. I like to cook. I like to eat. And the best conversations that I feel like Black communities have, at least I know I have, is over food.
Yeah.
There's just something that brings people together when it's around a table, especially around good food, because we can come together when food is trash to talk about food being trash, but when it's good food and that it's sent with the intention of love and appreciation, that just changes the whole energy into a beautiful experience. And I always want to make sure that my guest and myself, as well as my co-host, we all have a great rapport. Because there's nothing worse than when you're trying to extrapolate a conversation out of somebody and they're giving you nothing. So if you don't know the person that's going to be on your podcast and you haven't really heard a lot of how they sound in an audio format, I always recommend doing a coffee and chat. Just and it's super just like casual conversation. Let's hop on Zoom. Tell me more about you. That way you can get how they engage and how they interact with you and if your energies are matching. And then if you feel like that you're going to have a great conversation with them, then invite them to your podcast. Fortunately, I don't really have to do that much because I have a beautiful plethora of people, of women in the podcasting space that I've connected with that I can actually reach out to and slide in their DMs and be like, hey girl, hey, you want to be on my podcast? And like 9 out of 10 times they say yes. So I'm very, very fortunate. But if you have it set up where people can fill out a job form, or you have a link to be a guest where they fill out information about being a guest, make sure that on that link you have a schedule for a coffee and chat. And then don't schedule them to be on your podcast until that coffee and chat is done.
Okay, that's good advice. And just real quick, you said that you have basically a strong network. So I think that's also a good segue into a point that we should understand. Sometimes you don't have to always go out there and look for guests. Sometimes it's right along in your network, and that's important for you to build your network. They always say your network's your net worth, right? And in the podcasting space, as you and I both know, that's one great way to promote your podcast and get and build up your tribe or your fan base by utilizing other people's fan base to also drive traffic to your podcast. So I just wanted to stress that point because I didn't want people to miss that part. Um, a couple more questions 'cause I know we're running out of time, and it's Friday night and it's after Thanksgiving. So, um, uh, from because you run a podcast and you run a business, how do you manage your time? Like, what are some things that you do, or some advice you can give to some podcasters to help them manage their time? Because we both kind of work in the same space with our companies. One of the biggest issues is time management and the frustration it causes that eventually leads to pod fade for a lot of podcasters. So, what would be some tips you could give to some of the listeners out there?
Hire out. That's number one. Hire out. If you cannot afford to hire out, however, because I know that everybody can't afford to hire out, figure out the things that you absolutely love to do and then hire out for the other things. And that way, because you're either paying for it with time or money. Because money, I mean, time is money. So if there are components of your podcast that you absolutely loathe and it gives you a rash thinking about doing, you're not going to want to do it. So just hire out. Go to Fiverr, find some people. I mean, look at your budget, find some people that can work within your budget and reach out to them and only do the things that you love. Be organized. Again, I cannot stress organization enough, because if your podcast drops on Monday and it's Sunday night and you can't find your intro and outro or the recording, you're not going to want to do it. And a week is going to go by and your episode's not going to drop. Hold yourself accountable. If you say to yourself, I am going to drop 4 episodes this month, once a week, I'm going to drop an episode. Drop that episode. Make a commitment to yourself that you are not going to pod fade. And again, like you said, find a community that's also going to hold you accountable. I think that's the stat is the pod fade number is 7 episodes,
Yeah, around
which
seven.
is only was just like less than 2 months if you drop every week. And I think that is because people don't really understand or are aware all of the moving parts and components that come with podcasting. So if you know ahead of time, this is going to take some effort and this is going to take some work, let me set myself up for success. The pod fade is going to be a lot less than winging it. Turkey, Thanksgiving, winging it. You're welcome.
I thought my
Where's that intro music?
that's worse than a dad joke, just so you know.
That was gold. That
Yes,
was
it
majestic.
It was. Just a couple more questions and then we'll move on. And let people know how to get in touch with you and stuff like that. What now you're one of the moderators of our community. So and you and I met in another group during one of their seminars earlier this year. What does it mean for you to be a moderator of this community, and what does it mean for you to be a black podcaster?
I love being a moderator in this group because I'm so interested in people's experiences in podcasting, because I think that I'm so immersed in podcasting literally all day and all night and all morning and in the wee morning hours. I feel like I talk about podcasting 24/7, and that's because my life is podcasting 24/7. So to have people come in and it's just like their first time experience in podcasting. And like when Leah posted about a podcast description and I jumped in and I was like, look, here's a podcast description. And she was like, really? Like, how did you do that in like 15 minutes?
All right.
So seeing where people kind of are having hiccups makes me not only want to share and help them with information from what I've experienced in my company, but it also makes me a better company owner, because I forget what it's like to be new. So having that reminder with those particular questions is just such an added benefit for me, because it puts me back into that mindset of when I just started. And I love the group. I mean, so many people voted for my black ass podcaster name, and I think that we were robbed from it. Um, and I think that I add so I think I'm funny, even though, some people don't think I'm funny. Corey Gumbs. So I feel like that I offer humor in the group because people can get very overwhelmed and very serious in podcasting. When look, we're not saving lives. We're offering much needed entertainment, which is very important. But lighten up. Like have fun with it. If you don't have fun with it, you're not gonna do it. So have fun with it.
That's one of the things being a part of the group since I started it. I've gone through my own iterations as a the admin of the group. Um, which was I did take it a little too serious in the beginning because it was something that was it's like, it's like we know with clients, this is your baby. This is your thing and you have a grand vision for it and you have this direction you want to take it. And I think over the past couple of months, I've kind of lightened up and just let the group actually become what it needs to become for itself. So, like you said, you're so immersed in podcasting all day long, you tend to forget Scorpion. You tend to forget. um, I don't. I'm getting attacked tonight. I don't really.
And let it be known, you're like, oh, the last couple of months has been so fun. Exhibit A. You're welcome.
I didn't want to gas anybody
You're
up. That's on the
welcome. I'm
conversation.
just saying.
But,
You know
but
that my hair is pulled back because like when my head gets bigger, so does my hair. So I had to rein it in tonight.
you didn't want it to take up the whole screen.
I didn't want it to overwhelm like cousin It.
Yeah, but it's good because sometimes you do need other people to come in to make you realize I maybe I need to slow down and remember where I came from basically. So that's great. I guess let's segue into how can people reach out to you? How can they learn more about you? Where can they check out your podcast and stuff like that?
So I am all in these internet streets. I have like 500 different names for all of my handles because I am not good at social media. and my earbuds keep falling out. So I am at Crackers, CrackkersNIN, soup, SOUP, .com. That is my website. Oh, look at you!
That's the website.
You were just right on that. There you go. I was like, wait, can I put it in the chats? No, look. And there it goes. If I give you my bank account, will money appear that quickly too? We'll talk about that after the live. We'll figure that out. I expect the Cash App. My Instagram is B as in Bethany, Crackers in Soup. Look at that. It's right there too. My Twitter is, I don't know, what is it? Crackers_in, because it wouldn't allow me to have Crackers and Soup. DMU Twitter. My podcast is wherever you listen to podcasts. It's on Apple, which whatever for Apple. It's on Spotify. Yay, Android users. Yes, Droid users. It's on Stitcher. It's on Good Pods, which I just got an alert that the Good Pod, I don't know, the people who work at Good Pods recommended my podcast, which I was like,
yeah, I saw that the other day.
Super dope, right?
Yeah.
Every time it surprises me. I'm like, every time that's the face that I make. So I also have on Instagram, Chatting Over Chowder has its own Instagram page. I'm on LinkedIn under Bethany Hawkins. What else is there for social?
That's enough.
That's enough. I'm everywhere. If you type in Bethany Hawkins or Crackers and Soup, you're gonna find me. I'm not that incognito.
All right, and I guess you're coming up to your 1 year anniversary for the podcast, right?
I am.
So, what is some advice you can give real quick outside of the advice you've already given during this conversation to any podcasters out there that are looking to, I don't want to say mimic the same success you have, but are looking to go down that path where, over a course of a year, you have a sponsor, you have awards already. So, what's some good advice you can give to some of these podcasters out there?
Put yourself out there. And when I say put yourself out there, I don't mean go into a Facebook group and drop your link and say a new episode has come out. Offer value. If somebody is talking about, say that your podcast is about I don't know, black ass podcasting. And someone says, I'm a podcaster. I wish I knew, I want to be a podcaster and I wish I knew more about the podcasting experience. And you say, oh my God, I have a podcast called Black Ass Podcasts. And we talked about the experience of getting ready to drop my first episode on episode 4. If you're interested, here's a link. That is so different than just being like, hey, I just dropped an episode, here you go.
Right.
So you're connecting with people and you're giving them free advice essentially while they're listening to your podcast, and then they're increasing your downloads. So make sure that you're going out there and that you're offering value, and then you're dropping your podcast information. And then again, connect with people. Community is everything. I am all about collaboration. You have to be in the mindset of collaboration over competition. There's more than enough room for all of us. You can always learn from somebody else. I don't care if you've been in this podcasting game for 15 years. You can always learn from somebody else. And be genuinely yourself, because people can smell fake like a fart in a car. So you don't want to start living like fake life and then just having to be that fake ass person. Be authentically you. Offer information that's genuinely helpful and build your community.
All right. Yeah, community is everything. And I tell people all the time, you have to build a community around your podcast. Gives you great engagement, gives you also feedback, like, so you can know what your fans want, what they're listening to. So I think that's great advice. Bethany, I really appreciate having you on the show. Again, this is the spotlight. This is for members of our group so that we can put the spotlight on them, learn more about who they are, what their podcast is about. So thank you for giving up your Friday evening, the day after Thanksgiving. Really appreciate it. Appreciate having you as a moderator in the group. Look forward to the 2022 season for the group, because we're going to be taking it to some big places. So again, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you everybody for joining us. This is the Black Podcasters Association Spotlight. If you are interested in becoming coming on the show and being on the spotlight, please feel free to join our group on Facebook at the Black Podcasters Association. You can also go to our website, blackpodcastersassociation.com, and you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, soon to be TikTok, and also you can look at the replays of our other spotlights on YouTube. So thank you guys for joining us, and have a good evening. And we'll see you on Tuesday, where we have our next guest, Scorpion November.
Scorpion!
So
I love me some Scorpion.
That'll be Tuesday at 12 p.m. We'll be streaming live either on our YouTube channel as well as in our Facebook group. So thank you guys, and enjoy your evening.
Thank you everybody so much for joining. I know that the day after Thanksgiving is rough, and it means so much to me that everybody came out and watched this 33 minutes of nonsense. So I'm so appreciative. Thank you.
Imagine if we had our own show.
Forget about it. It would be off the chains. Off the chains. I'd be like, award. And Corey would be like, you didn't earn any of those.
All right, Bethany, I'll talk to you later.
Bye.